Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the TASS and School Easy Pay webinar. We're very excited to talk to you about the integration and what that looks like for the schools who might consider using us or are currently using us. So we're starting off right now. We'll start with a little bit of housekeeping, followed by talking about the actual integration, which Kevin will handle, and then also the integration benefits, and follow with a live demonstration to show you what it looks like, what it feels like from both the parent experience and then also from a financial administrator at the school. And lastly, we're going to have a question and answer session to talk about any of those sort of frequently asked questions that we receive from schools. Hosting today, we have Kevin, the Chief Product Officer for School Easy Pay, and myself, Brady, a Solution Sales Consultant for TASS, and Jane in the background as the Marketing Director. Just some housekeeping quickly. This webinar will be recorded and we will share it with all the people who have registered for the session today, likely in the coming days. Please also utilize the chat function to submit any questions and we'll do our best to get through to those at the end of the session. Over to you, Kevin.
Cool. Hi, welcome everyone. What I thought to do is just start with one slide just to sort of take everyone through a bit of a current landscape of what payments look like in schools and some of the trends that ourselves and TASS have been seeing of late. So just touching on these, the first one is around ongoing digitalization of payments and the automation of payments. As you probably know and see yourselves, there's a big move towards subscription type payments, so Netflix, premium retail memberships, Uber Premium, etc., where it means that payers and customers are increasingly using and becoming more comfortable with recurring or automated payments, which has been a big trend over the last couple of years in terms of payments being processed on their behalf based on certain triggers. Other trend that more and more schools we're seeing is moving away from manual data entry to automatic reconciliation. Obviously, as systems become more advanced and data automation, APIs, webhooks, and other things, it means that there's more ability for schools to sort of automate things and move away from downloading files, uploading files, particularly for those day-to-day or month-to-month type activities, whatever they might be. All of that is balanced around, in the ongoing digitalization I spoke about a minute ago, by a move for customers to wanting more control and visibility, particularly over their payments. So being able to go in and see payment history, and this is broader than anything we're talking about today, but obviously with the rise towards it's easier for people to see their bank balances, their credit card statements these days, and people like that control and visibility more and more. So that's a big trend beyond even school payments. What's rolling out now also is some faster payments, as you might have heard about, things like the new payments platform. These NPP really has the opportunity to both speed up the processing of payments, so actually processing for, say, parent payments, but also the settling of the parents to merchants like yourselves as well. And School Easy Pay and Zenit, our parent company, we've been going down this road a lot of recent times around Pay ID and Pay 2. So there'll be more around that in months to come. And then also obviously a big move around regulatory data security, always a topical conversation around data protection, how are details stored, everything from normal PII, personal information, right through to card information as well. And we'll touch on some of these topics today as we go through more of the details, but that's a bit of an overall landscape, if you like. Moving into talking about the TASS and School Easy Pay payment schedules. So today, just as a bit of a summary, what we'll focus on today is how this payment schedules integration can help you improve cash flow and streamlining of when funds are received. Also, how you can utilize it to reduce the admin time within your school, again, particularly for those routine tasks that you need to do on a recurring basis. Also, it's an opportunity to increase the overall efficiency of fee collection and streamline that and build in some more efficient processes to maybe some processes that have been very stagnant for many years. And also there's a core opportunity here around enhancing the security and compliance, both from an IT point of view to handling personal information point of view, but also handling really secure data such as credit card numbers, bank account numbers, etc., etc. So that's a sort of a broad summary of what we will take you through today. Thanks, Brady. So running into a little bit more detail, and I'll touch on these in a fair bit of detail. So what are the main benefits that moving towards integrated payments can do? How does it really help you get paid faster, and how does it help you to reduce admin time? The first thing to say about this School Easy Pay and TASS payment schedules integration is it's completely seamless, and it is a complete integration. Everything is done within the TASS system that you schools utilize, and also in the parent lounge system that the families access. So there's no new systems, no new logins for your team, no new logins for your parents. And what we mean by everything is everything from the setup, from a school's point of view in terms of the configuration of the options, and Brady will touch on these later on, how you actually configure it in the first place, and right through to then how does the parents set up their preferred schedule, enter their card or banking details. The payments are processed automatically, and the payments are also reconciled automatically as well. So it is a complete seamless integration. There's no separate websites, etc. As I mentioned, it's an easy parent setup. Parents can set up their payments by card or bank within Parents Lounge, and so it brings an end to any practices around sending out emails, sending out forms, PDFs or paper forms, getting those forms back in, having to upload them to the bank or upload to a different system, whatever that might be. It eliminates the sending and the receiving of forms, and also the storage of forms as well, because the parents do everything within Parent Lounge. It's also a great way to increase direct debit take-up or automatic payments take-up. And really the core benefit, as you probably know there, is around the more parents that you have paying automatically or paying by direct debit. And by that we mean by either bank account, debit card or credit card. Essentially means that the school gets paid faster. And it also means that you're going to have fewer parents to chase to follow up for one-off payments. And often, as you know, they're probably the same parents you might have to follow up the next time as well. So it can really increase that direct debit take-up and have that flow-on benefit for you. As I touched on briefly, it's also automatic processing of the payments and automatic reconciliation or recording of the payments. So essentially each day the TASS system talks to the School Easy Pay system and automatically processes those payments. So there's no interaction required on a day-to-day basis from the school. So it really is the easy way. And we have schools reporting on average they can save up to 2 days per month, which is really good from a streamlining those processing and the recording of those transactions. And finally, parents manage their own accounts. So if a parent wants to change from bank account A to bank account B, or to use a card one particular time, they can do all of that within Parent Lounge. They do not have to contact the school. The school doesn't need to take card numbers over the phone or email or by forms or anything like that, or log into banks on behalf of the school. And the parents can do it all within Parent Lounge, which is a really, really good benefit and sort of wraps up from a parent experience point of view in a really positive way. To touch on a little bit more around how do automatic payments, get into a little bit more detail on how that increases efficiencies and finances within the schools. And 4 key points here. One is that automatically initiated payments, like payment schedule, puts the school in control. So it gives you more certainty as to when the payments will be received. And obviously, each school is different in terms of when parents will pay, but often schools will tell us that a lot of parents will pay on time, a lot of parents will pay on the day that it's required, then some will pay in the week following, and then you get straggler payments. Where an automatic payment system such as this, what it does, it just gives you the ability to be able to forecast and have more certainty of those payments on a month-to-month or a week-to-week basis, whatever it might be. And what it also does, it reduces late payments as a flow-on to what I just said. So it means you get paid faster, and it means that you and your team can also spend less time chasing payments and less time having awkward conversations with families, because let's face it, nobody really likes to be making phone calls and sending emails to encourage people to pay. It's a conversation that most people shy away from. Third point here is around collecting fees automatically, improves the process efficiency within the school. So there's no need to process payments every single day. There's no need to manually record transactions and have transactions coming in from multiple different sources that all need to be entered into the school management system. It's all done automatically within TASS, which is brilliant. And then it also allows you to improve cash flow. And again, schools tell us up to 11% or more. And touching on what I said earlier, also around forecasting when funds are going to come in, which is obviously really important from a finance manager point of view as well, being able to see all of those. To touch on a core point, which is always really important and we always get a lot of questions on, is how does this really help you from a security and a compliance point of view? On the left-hand side here is a couple of points that the school needs to keep in mind from a PCI compliance point of view. So from a school's point of view, parents' cards and banking details obviously need to be handled securely. Schools, regardless of how you get paid, regardless of how you get paid by card, whether it's a terminal, whether you're using a bank facility or a different facility, you need to ensure that your systems, the handling of those card details and your processes are PCI compliant. And PCI compliance is essentially the payment card industry compliance standard, which covers the handling, the storage and the usage of card data. So that's applicable for everyone, matter whether you're a corner store or a school, has to be responsible and compliant with that. From a how do TASS and School Easy Pay through this integration help you? First thing to say is that School Easy Pay, we're PCI DSS certified level 1, which is the highest available level that there is. And what does that mean? What that means is the full card numbers never enter the school's physical premises or never enter the school's IT systems. The card details are not stored by TASS. They're not even stored in full by School Easy Pay. We utilize what's called secure tokenization, which essentially protects and tokenizes those card details to protect them and to ensure that they're not usable. This solution also provides you with RBA surcharging compliance. So what that means is that because of the way the processing fees, and we'll touch on them later on, because of the way that we handle them, they're either charged directly to the parent or to the school if the school chooses to absorb them. So it gives you compliance in that regard as well, in addition to the PCI, the technical compliance, if you like.
Awesome. Over to me. So when it comes from the school, let's talk about how it works. The first step is to complete your automated billing as per normal. So going through that process, generating the fees that go out to your parents. From there, your financial administrators can create and configure the payment schedule frequencies. So it's often to see a couple of different available options that you might push out to your parent community. Might be weekly, fortnightly, monthly, something like that, which I'll touch on in a little bit more detail when we jump into the demonstration. From there, you're going to generate your parent statements, your invoices, push those out to your parent community. At that point, your parents can then jump into the parent portal and enter in their banking details or their credit card information, and then choose from the available options that you have enabled for them. From there, School Easy Pay processing and the automated communications will kick in. What we tend to find is the vast majority of the parent community, they'll select an option and they'll just tick along in the back end. It's basically a hands off the wheel debt collection service. And the TASS system will automatically communicate with the parents based on any event or occurrence that might take place during that payment schedule. When a payment is triggered, receiving will take place automatically, shot off to both the parent and then also back to the TASS system. At that stage, payments, both current and future, are tracked in the payment schedules dashboard, which gives your financial team a way to have complete oversight to cash flow forecasting based off future transactions, as well as ways to communicate with parents and have total management of everyone in those schedules. Cool. Jumping into the software now. Perfect. Okay, so we're in the TASS.web admin product now. And where we're going to start is by looking at some of the configurations and setup options that you have available as a business office at the school. It's going into finance and down into the billing cycle. We're going to start off in payment schedules now. This is zoom in a tad. So we can see in my environment here, I've got 4 different schedules that I've set up. There's fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, and weekly. From here, there's additional options that you've got available as a school that you might configure based on how you want to run your payment schedules. Firstly, you can define the start and end date of which this payment schedule will run. Most schools we see tend to run it on an annual basis, so commence mid-January or something like that, and finish up often in the end of November, so you're not having to chase any fees as you're looking to close down the school in the last couple of weeks. From there, you've got the option to allow payment delays. So one thing we hear from many schools that before they move to payment schedules is how many phone calls they're fielding on a week-to-week basis to, delay a payment for a particular parent because they might have a tricky week or something like that. So this actually gives your parents the option to delay a payment themselves from within the parent portal without needing to communicate with the school. From your business office perspective, you can define whether or not you're comfortable with that and also the number of days that you are allowed to take that delayed payment forward. Secondly, there's also the auto retry of failed payments. So the way the system works is it's going to tick along, transactions are going to occur, but on the off chance that a transaction bounces, might be that mortgage came out, car payment was something that week, and the system's going to recognize that that transaction failed. From there, it's going to go ahead and communicate with the parent, let them know that that transaction didn't go through, and then it's going to go ahead and re-raise that transaction in a specified number of days that you define as the business office. So we can see here in this circumstance, I've got a retry interval of 3 days. So 3 days after that transaction initially bounced, it's going to retake place. And it will do that as many times as I've defined in the maximum number of retries. At that point, the system's going to communicate with both the parent and also the business office to say, hey, something's gone wrong here. Their credit card might have expired. You need to give them a call and find out what's taking place. All right, so that's an oversight of what it looks like to set up the different payment options. We'll jump into the parent portal now and have a look what they experienced through this process. So I'm jumping into my parent portal now, coming into my school fees account. And from the top, we can see our account balance, my account details, as well as the ability to go through and view my most recent statement. And it's these bottom two options here, which is the integration between TASS and School Easy Pay. So I can go through now and enter in a new payment method. Now, what we're seeing right here, this screen is interfacing directly with School Easy Pay at this point. So from the parent's perspective, they're not needing to navigate from anywhere else outside of the parent portal that they're already in. From here, I can go through and put Kevin's bank in. And once I have authorized this, it's going to send off this data to the secure environment. So it's fully PCI compliant, and we retain just a couple of pieces of that banking information. That was the tokenization that Kevin was talking about before. Now, after this, I can go ahead and enter in what payment schedule I'd like to commence. Now, as a school, one thing to talk about as well is you do have control over which payment schedules you allow to different portions of your school community. So you might have different sort of billing buckets or reasons that you might want to segment parents into only more limited options, and then have a larger portion of your school community where you might give them a bit more flexibility or something like that. So there is a lot of control and oversight through this program. So I can go ahead and choose which statement I want. But one thing I might just talk about quickly is the monthly schedule, because I always think this is really cool. So you can actually define the day that you might want these monthly schedules to take place. So, for example, if you were a parent who had a monthly pay run at your company wherever you got paid, it might be the second Monday of each month that you got paid. You can actually set it up to allow that transaction to take place the day after your monthly pay run. So really handy in that sense, and giving a level of control to your parents and is a really good experience. Now let's go back to the weekly schedule. That is probably a more common one. You can see here as I'm setting this up, it's probably not the best example given that we're about mid-October at this point, but typically your parents would enroll in these payment schedules in January or something like that. And then it's going to pre-populate the installment amounts as well as the number of installments that will take place to bring that balance to zero by the last installment date, which in this case is 28th of November. So from there, we can see the installments that are going to take place between now and then. From the parent's perspective, I know how much money is going to be taken out of my bank or off my credit card, depending on the payment method I've chosen. I can see here the ability to go ahead and delay a payment should that be required. So might be a tough week, or coming up to Christmas, a little bit tight. So I move that forward a couple of days to get me through to my next payday or something like that. Now, one thing to mention here, once the first transaction has taken place, the delete payment schedule button will disappear. So the parents will be locked into that unless they contact the school to have you adjusted on their behalf. What that means from a business office is that your cash flow forecasting will remain intact as this continues to transact throughout the year. The only options that your parents will have available to adjust once it has commenced is the ability to jump in and actually change the payment method. So you might want most of your transactions coming from the bank account, but then, there might be a week where you want to switch it over to the credit card, something like that. Cool. So from here, we're going to jump back into the sort of admin financial perspective and coming back into payment schedules. So what we've got here is a dashboard. This gives us oversight to where all of the parents in our sort of parent community is sitting in relation to the payment schedules that they have enrolled in or might not yet to be enrolling. So we can see here the spread of, I've only got a couple of parents in my database, but the spread of parents across the different schedules that I've set up. So we can see across there's a few that have missed. Kevin's bank probably wasn't real, so. And then we can also see future transactions that are going to take place over the next few days. I can project this forward to, have that cash flow forecasting as well. Now, what's also fantastic is this gives us a way to communicate with parents based off whether or not they have enrolled in a payment schedule. So I can jump in now and we can see, look, I've got 105 parents that have an outstanding balance without a payment schedule at this point. I've got oversight here, all the parents that fall into that category. I can go ahead and print off reports should that be required, or I can go ahead and communicate with them. So I'm going to jump in here. I have a template set up, and then it's going to use the token fields that are available across the rest of the TASS program. So it might be, hi, Kevin, this year's school fees were published by email. You have an outstanding balance of whatever that value would be. And it's just going to grab that information off their account and then personalize that email to the recipient. Cool. All right, just the last thing to talk about. I have mentioned this before. Whoops, wrong one. Is the automatic emails. So this is a really important component here because the amount of time it takes your finance team to go ahead and communicate with each parent individually is mind-boggling. This will completely replace that for you. So any item or occurrence that will take place when a parent has enrolled in a payment schedule throughout that full timeline, the system is going to communicate on your behalf. So for example, it might be a credit card payment has been declined. Once again, it's going to personalize that email communication to the individual recipient, so it's specific to their circumstances. So you can see all the different options available on the left-hand side, but it just means that they're kept abreast as these automatic transactions take place in the background, and they are aware of any changes or requirements that might take place. A very important one as well is that upcoming payment advice. So just notifying the parent of the specific amount that is going to transact in the coming days. For this instance here, I've got it set up that 3 days in advance. They're notified to let them know what transaction amount will be occurring. Cool. That's it for the demonstration for the moment. So what's next on this? Join other leading schools. Do you have any questions in the chat?
So I'll touch on some of these slides. So there's payment schedules has been in place with TASS now for probably 4 years, I think, something like that. Many schools on board, and lots more came on in the last couple of years as well, coming out of COVID, and as schools sort of re-looked at processes. It was really good. So lots of schools on board, some of which are up there, and happy to answer any questions with regards to that. There are one or two.
I've got some good questions here.
There's one other slide. I'll take everyone through if that's all right first. So from an implementation point of view, so if you're a school and you're with TASS and you're currently not utilizing payment schedules, what does going live look like? And we've put a QR code here on screen, so you can pull out your phone and quickly do that. It will bring you through a page where you can set up a chat with the School Easy Pay team. You can select the time that suits you. We can take you through in more details if you like. The team will take you through choosing your pricing model or the costing model. And this is obviously a common question around how does it cost, so just to take you through that. There's no setup fees, there's no monthly fees, there's no minimum transactions with the School Easy Pay model. And what there is a processing fee. That processing fee is from approximately 0.5% up to about 1.8%, and depending on whether it's bank or the type of card that is used. From a school's perspective, you're in complete control. So if you as a school decide to pass those fees on to your parents, then the School Easy Pay TASS payment schedules runs at completely no cost, or you can opt to absorb some of those costs. So for example, you may choose to absorb the bank account processing fee and pass on the card fees, or you might decide to absorb the whole lot, or you can do a combination. It's completely up to you, and you can change that from time to time as well, and the team will take you through that. And the third thing that happens is then the School Easy Pay works with you. There's a one-page activation form, which is the agreement between the school and School Easy Pay, where you nominate your bank account details, et cetera, and then we work with TASS to get you up and running. Get you up and running can be as little as approximately 1 week. It's not a big exercise. Obviously, at this time of the year, as Brady touched on, a lot of schools are talking to us now around coming on board and with a view to rolling this out in January, February, the new school year. So really, really good time to get everything set up, get everything configured, ready to go, and we're really here to help you personalize those communications that go out to your parents, to introduce this and to work with you on that go live. Maybe one more slide, I think. You want to touch on this? Yeah.
There was a couple of attendees in the session who weren't currently a TASS school. They may be using School Easy Pay. There was a combination, but if you're not a TASS school and you'd like to learn a bit more about the software, please do go ahead and scan the QR code. You'll be able to download different resources, some brochures. You can actually jump into an online sandbox area and explore the system, or you're welcome to reach out to me and have a chat about the system and whether or not it might be suitable for your school.
Cool. So we have any questions?
Yeah, there's been plenty. So I'm just going to fire away at you guys. How do you update schedules when additional charges are processed?
Yeah, so when additional charges, they can be absorbed into the schedule, so it'll recalculate and update those installments automatically.
How does the system handle declined payments?
I can take that one if you like. So Brady touched on this in the demonstration. So essentially, as a school, you get to configure if a payment fails. So obviously, a payment might fail because of insufficient funds or the bank account is closed or whatever that might be. So what happens is that you as a school can set your rules around whether you want the integration to automatically retry and how many times you want the system to automatically retry. In addition, there are those email templates that Brady showed, which you can actually personalize. So there are some pre-coded text in there and some rail merged, if you like, information, but the system will handle the automatic retry of that as many times as you like, and the communication. So again, it allows you as a school to set those business rules of how you want to handle it. Some schools choose to use the automatic retries. Some schools decide not to because they want to handle that themselves. Completely up to you in terms of how you do that.
Okay, so in schools that have this, what proportion of parents use and what's the uptake rate?
Yeah, so generally what we find is it can depend also on how many direct debit parents you currently have already before you implement this. But generally what we find by the time year 2 or year 3 of having this in place, what you do is you end up with the majority of the parents and the families are on board. It's not uncommon for us to have, in schools to have in excess of 90% of the parents on board with payment schedules. And again, utilizing the communications that have been built into this, it allows you to see the parents who do and do not have the payment schedules on board. And we would obviously encourage you from time to time to send out those reminders, both through the TASS system, but also in other communications that you do with parents, newsletters and school and fee letters, if you like. It allows you to quickly encourage more parents to come on board.
Can parents change their schedule plans halfway through the year?
No. So once they have commenced one of those payment schedules, they'll be locked into that unless they communicate with the school and request or talk to the finance team about updating that to a different schedule.
What are the costs involved for using School Easy Pay?
Yeah, so touched on it, but just maybe for some people, there's still some people joining, I can see in the call as well. So just to reiterate again, so we don't charge any setup fees. There's no separate merchant service fees with School Easy Pay. So just for clarity around that, people often ask around this. So utilising School Easy Pay, you're utilising School Easy Pay's merchant facilities that are all consolidated in. So the fees I mentioned, which range from 0.5% up to 1.8%, are the only fees. So you won't be paying those fees in addition to paying a credit card fee to your bank as well. That is all wrapped up within the service. And as I mentioned, we don't charge any fees or minimum transactions or ongoing monthly fees or anything like that as well. And again, just to reiterate, you have the choice as a school to absorb some or all of those fees, or indeed to pass some or all of them onto the parents as well. Completely up to you with regards to your business rules.
But let's just ask, what are the main considerations for rolling out to parents to improve uptake?
Do you want to either way?
Yeah, I'd just say good communication and really highlighting the benefits from the parent's perspective. So allowing them, visibility of when those transactions are going to take place and having a level of control. So across the schools that I've worked with, and it's quite a few at this point, it's always been very well received, very positive feedback, because as a parent, you have an understanding when these transactions are going to take place, and you're not just sort of surprised when you open up your bank and there's a couple $100 missing that you weren't necessarily aware of. So that on top of the automated communication is a really good experience.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that as well is that, as I mentioned earlier, parents do sign up to a payment schedule. It is a direct debit, which means the payments will come through automatically. But as I mentioned earlier, there's more and more awareness with that, with people, with all the subscriptions that they're paying, but also the trade-off, if you like, there is that parents want the visibility and they want the control of being able to switch from card to bank, and that's what this system does. It allows them to set up a payment schedule so they don't have to go in every fortnight, every month, every term and make the payments automatically, but they get full visibility and control of it as well.
Is there a parent guide to follow when setting up payment schedules in Parent Lounge?
If we can put some additional bullet points together for you and your school community if you like. Usually, as Brady mentioned, we'll help you with communications out to your parents to essentially talk about the benefits and to give them a link across to payment schedules, to Parent Lounge. From Parent Lounge, it's a pretty easy setup in terms of following it, but more than happy to put a couple of bullet points together or TASS in terms of taking them through those steps and maybe some screenshots if you think your school community could benefit from that. No problem whatsoever.
Another one, if a payment fails, is the transaction processed automatically in TASS or is a manual transaction required?
No, if the payment fails, the system's going to recognise that and communicate with your TASS, so you're aware that that transaction has bounced.
And do the automatic retry if that's what you've configured. Yep,
that's right. Yep.
If you add extra fees during the term, will it add into the payment schedule setup?
Sorry, could you repeat that one?
If you add extra fees during the term.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the more recent enhancements to the integration. I think that was rolled out about 12 months ago. So any additional fees or ad hoc payments or ad hoc charges that are applied to parents throughout that year once they've already enrolled in a payment schedule can be automatically applied, and will recalculate those future installments to accommodate or absorb those new fees.
And I think it communicates that to the parents as well, to say, here are your new payment schedule details because of those extra ones.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Are we able to migrate payment schedules and direct debit information that's already in TASS?
I don't think so, because of the fact that the details need to be securely brought in to the tokenization system that we touched on. So there is that one-time parent setup where they have to plug in their bank or card details. I'm happy to look at it in more detail with the particular questionnaire, but typically the more efficient and secure way for it to happen is that the parent goes into Parent Lounge and enters those details themselves, because that then means that those details no longer need to be held, maintained, stored by the school. So this, I suppose, is your opportunity to move away from having stored details that you're in control of and you input, to move into for the parent to do it. But happy to workshop that in more detail.
What's the minimal interval and days between retries? Can it be done the following day?
Yeah, so the minimal is 1 day. As far as I know, I'm yet to see a school put it more than probably 3 or 4 days. So I don't know if there's a limit to it, but yeah, I guess you probably wouldn't want to make it wait any longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 day is the minimal.
Yeah, and we probably recommend that it would be maybe 1 to 2 days usually. And then again, it's up to you whether you want to allow more than one retry. And it's a really good benefit there of being able to configure that on a school by school basis, because let's face it, every school is different in terms of how parents pay and the proportion of failed payments, etc. that you may have.
Yeah, and just in case the person who asked that question or anyone else has joined since we post the demonstration piece of this webinar, you have the ability to define the retry interval days when you are setting up the payment schedule options and you're pushing out to your parents.
A lot of questions about whether the sort of comms templates are already there or you have to configure them yourself.
Yeah, the comms templates are already there. So the communication that's automated based off those different events and occurrences, they exist. You have the option to adjust them or brand them for your school's logo and corporate image, but the basis is already there.
Yeah, and I think that's really good, because if your school wants to add an additional line of text about some particular process or procedure you have the ability to do that. And it really is a good benefit, rather than your team having to write every communication each time. And we quite often see that in schools, or they have the emails saved in draft and they're copying and pasting. It's a really, really good way of standardizing those comms and bringing it all together into one efficient process.
Is the software compatible with ANZ?
Sort of good question. So with School Easy Pay, and I probably should have touched on this area, so really good question, Kylie, was it? Is that it doesn't matter who you bank with. So with School Easy Pay, we're an agnostic payment system. Again, you're utilizing our merchant service facilities when you're processing the payments. Essentially, we then deposit the funds into the school's bank account. So from our point of view, it doesn't matter what bank you deal with whatsoever, we will just deposit it in. So, whether you bank with ANZ, Westpac, NAB, or any of the other banks, that's perfectly fine. Again, you don't need to utilize or plug in your merchant service or your card merchant service facilities from those. You're utilizing the integrated School Easy Pay ones as part of that. So it means that all of those costs and all of those benefits flow through automatically.
So on that, we've had a few questions about what's the turnaround time for payments to hit the bank for processing.
Yeah, so typically what you will do is you will see funds deposited into your account within 3 banking days. As you probably know, card and bank account payments can settle or clear at different times. The new payments platform that I touched on will streamline this up really, really quickly in times to come. But it means that you don't need to wait long for those funds to come into your account. And again, what you got to remember is that all that reconciliation is automatically done within TASS as well, which is good.
Josephine's asked a question. Are we able to edit a parent's schedule on their behalf?
Yes. So from a finance office perspective, you've got full control. You can jump into the parent account record, and there's actually, I might even just quickly jump into it. It's something I didn't show before. So, where am I logged in as? Let's find out. So when I jump into the whole family, there's a full tab available to the payment schedule. So I can go through and rebuild or update this payment schedule based off whatever requirements are needed from the school, or if the parent rings up and asks for some adjustment.
Another one from Jennifer. Can you still manually record receipts into TASS? For example, staff have salary deductions, which normally you upload a file for.
I think that might be maybe for staff that have students enrolled in the school, or people paying through other ways. So for understanding your question correctly, you still obviously can have parents pay other ways. and you can still utilize the other functionality that was in TASS in terms of uploading files. Payment schedules doesn't stop that, but obviously what it does is it encourages you and encourages your parents, your family, sorry, to sign up for the payment schedules to really enhance how you collect payments. So yeah, this using payment schedules doesn't take away any functionality. It's designed to enhance the functionality you as a school have, but also the flexibility and the ease for the families too.
It's only work with annual billing. We bill on a term basis. Do the parents need to set up a payment schedule each term?
If you are, yes. So if you're billing termly, your parents would have to re-enroll in a payment schedule on a termly basis. We see most schools move to annual billing when using School Easy Pay for that sort of flexibility.
If you send comms to parents, can you see this in a pass log? Will this go into the account diary or communication log?
It'll go into the communication log.
I'm asked if they're going to get a recording of this presentation to through their manager and discuss.
They sure are.
They sure are. You can also book in, obviously, for a live demo with any about videos.
Yep. And down the bottom corner of the slide, you can see now is a shortcut URL through to the TASS page on the School Easy Pay website. Yeah, you can do that. We might bring the QR code up before the end.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Quite a few people asked about parents that pay sort of annually for that discount. How does that work in terms of how do you separate that out from the parents on payment schedules?
Typically, the way we see that happen the most is you'll just have different billing buckets. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can handle that. But look, if they're making that upfront payment at the beginning of the year to achieve an early payment discount, they can still go through and make that payment. It doesn't remove that option. It's just an additional sort of payment plan that you might make available to your parents. So nothing really changes in that sense.
Okay. Kev, so for you, we're still unclear on the fees of 0.5 to 1.8%. How is this calculated? Is it based on transactions and is it charged up?
Yeah, good question. So, essentially, as mentioned, that's the fee range, whether it's bank account payment, whether it's two different types of card payments as well. And that does include, I see someone else ask, does that include American Express? And it does, within that range. That's not an extra fee. If your school decides that your school is going to absorb some or all of those fees, what will happen is that you will still receive all of the funds that the parent has paid, and School Easy Pay will automatically send you an invoice at the end of the month for the fees that you have agreed to pay School Easy Pay. So it's essentially the fee multiplied by whatever was processed. We obviously don't charge you for what has not been processed. If you choose to absorb some or all of those fees, or sorry, my apologies, if you choose to pass on some or all of those fees to the parents, that fee element, that payment processing fee or surcharge, if you want to call it that, and will be added to the transaction amount. So if the parent, is paying $1,000 and the fee is 1.8%, well then the total amount including the fee will be what is processed to the parent's credit card statement. So that's the way it works. And then from a school's perspective, for that payment that you have chosen to pass on the fees to the parent for, there's absolutely no cost to the school whatsoever for that transaction. Hope that helps.
Quite a few have asked when it will be rolled out for everyone.
It's available now. It's tried and tested. We rolled out I think it was 2020, I think was when we first rolled this out, tried and tested there was some pilot schools who had even more advanced access to it back then, and since that more and more schools have been coming on, so it's available now. As I said, it takes no more than about a week to get everything set up. There's essentially a one-page contract between the school and School Easy Pay where you nominate your banking details, etc., etc. And what we probably suggest at this time of the year is we'd encourage schools to reach out, now or over the coming couple of weeks, get everything set up, and then we will hold your hand with a view to rolling this out for the new school year. And then it means that you can go out fresh to the parents either this side of the new year or early in the new year, and introduce the parent schedules and give them the ability to set up their own schedules. So really, really good time to do it. And we do, coming out of a lot of conferences over the last couple of months, and that's what a lot of schools are doing. So we'd encourage more and more schools to get on board. It's available now.
I've got another great question. Does this allow for billing direct debit over 3 terms for your 12 students, or the rest of the families billed over 4 terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case, you just have a payment schedule for the year 12 parent cohort and just define the timelines to run from beginning of term 3 to the end, the beginning of term 1 to the end of term 3. So take place on a smaller timeline.
We've pretty much got most, if not all of them.
We're going to send out a document as well after this with every question and the answer, so that'll come in a document, which will be handy.
Lyndon's just asked, how are we able to apply discounts for certain payment schedules for annual, for example? I think that might have been touched on already, but so the schools can still apply discounts at some level. Yeah,
the payment schedules don't impact the billing and discount rules that you set up as a school. So whatever fees are pushed out to your parents, this is just giving them a way to facilitate payment for that.
Yeah.
Does the receiving in TASS happen the day they make the payment or the day it's settled into the school's bank account?
It usually occurs the day after payment has been transacted, and the receiving will come through to the electronic fees receipting program and then just be applied.
Yeah. Any other questions, or are we happy to?
I think, sorry, there's been so many that if I've missed any, I apologise.
Hopefully you guys have all enjoyed the demo. As I said, it is being recorded, and that'll be sent. The TASS team will send that out. And any other questions, feel free to reach out. If your question hasn't been there, feel free to use this QR code to set up a one-on-one Teams in person or over the phone demonstration with the School EasyPay team, who can come and take you through it and workshop anything that's particular for your school as well, and get you up and running. But it's a very seamless implementation point of view. Many have crossed this path before, and so yeah, it's very tried and trusted. Yeah.
Okay. There's one more actually for split families. Will they need to be set up as complex splits to allow each parent to choose their own schedule?
Yes, that's right. So for complex split family arrangements, you define the split, and then each parent would get their own parent portal access. At that place, whatever the defined fee split that you have set up as a school would then be available for them within their DESI or their allocated parent portal.
Right, and Lisa, yes, a document with all the questions answered will be sent out after this.
Yeah. It's great to have so many questions, because it means that people are engaged, and hopefully we've given you a good summary of the benefits and how it works. But yeah, do you want to wrap up?
Thank you for joining us. We're stoked to have so many people in attendance.
Yeah.
If you do have any further questions, please drop them in the chat. Feel free to scan the QR code if you'd like some more information on TASS or would like to chat. And we'll be in contact in the next couple of days with the recording and the FAQ spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out of your day. Take care.